Hello, I'm Anne Kruger. Welcome to the program. Many Victorians could be forgiven for thinking they'd been stranded in the forgotten floods this summer, given so much of the focus has been on what happened in Queensland. Yet as the recovery and reconstruction gains momentum up north, flooding continues in rural Victoria. And in some of the worst affected areas, paddocks will remain underwater for weeks, as Tim Lee reports.
I think it's come up a bit.
In normal times, the milking cows walk into this dairy twice a day. But these are anything but normal times.
I never thought I'd drive a boat into my dairy yard. You always drive a motorbike or a tractor into it, not a boat.
Brad Wren's farm is submerged under 2 metres of floodwater.
Yeah, that shed's a bit more under.
Though his dairy is on the highest ground, it too has been swamped.
Probably nearly a metre of water just sitting there, so it all drains back to this point, so I probably should get nearly 100% off, I'd hope.
The office is sodden, but Brad Wren did manage to get crucial items such as pumps and electrical equipment above the high tide mark.
Heartbreaking, I suppose. But anyway, we'll move on and we'll get better and better, so that's the aim anyway.
The water streaming through here is slowly gravitating towards the Murray River. But the floodwaters are banked up because the Murray is so full, as it has been for months. While debate rages about a federal flood levy to meet the repair bill, in this district, the word levy has a much more literal meaning. The newly constructed banks stretch for tens of kilometres. It's a race against time. They're holding back a wall of water from tearing through a vast area downstream. And that's what happened to families like the Murrays and the Wrens.
We worked hard for a week with the flood bank and it was getting higher and higher, and then one afternoon we decided we had to move the cows, and we got them out. All stock was off that day, and then the following night it blew at about 11:30 at night, and we had to move all the tractors real quick, so pretty scary stuff.
So the levee bank broke?
Yeah, it was a drainage pipe and a bit of a gully, so it came out pretty fast.
Tractors generally parked in that shed there, but...
It was time to save furnishings and precious items, but dozens of houses were swamped. Most here have found emergency accommodation with neighbours.
You're really talking about a quarter of Victoria in land mass being affected by this flood. Not quite all of it's come into this catchment, but we'd argue at least half of it's having to go out through here.
Oh, it's just hard to fathom that it's all underwater, and yeah, it was a paddock, just a lake.
And what size is your farm, Brad?
420 acres. Oh, gate there. Yeah.
Somewhere below is a wheat crop and a sorghum crop, which had been ready to harvest. After years of being a share farmer and saving his money, Brad Wren finally bought his own farm less than a year ago.
Never been a flood like it, not even the 56 one much talked about.
No, well, the bloke I bought it off, he said it's got to the top of it a few times, but he said it's never gone over and never seen water here, so... I've been here 9 months and seen it all.
Like many here, Brad Wren is in uncharted waters, quite literally. He has farm insurance, but like many, he has discovered ruefully that it doesn't cover flood damage.
This is a pivotal point in the management of these floods. The channel bank behind me was acting as a natural levee, holding back a vast amount of water. So the authorities decided they'd cut a hole in the road, and now this great flood of water is making its way towards the Murray.
And most of it is flowing through Brad Wren's farm.
I expect 2 to 3 months before we can even get back and start even preparing the fences and dairy and things like that.
But most immediate are the cows. They must be milked.
What happens if you miss some milkings with cows? It can be diabolical to a dairy herd.
Yeah, they can get mastitis and dry off, all sorts of troubles, yeah. So they have to be milked twice a day, no doubt.
Hey, 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 up, ho.
Bill Urquhart's dairy had sat idle for 18 months. A team of volunteers headed by a couple of local electricians got it back in order. And volunteers are helping to milk the cows twice a day.
For Bill to let us come here and use his dairy and just the support of everyone, it's been fantastic, so can't thank them enough, really.
The Murray's farm is 7 kilometres away. The Wren's is 10 k's away, so their cows also have temporary accommodation with their neighbours. They're living on fodder, much of it donated by other farmers. Stuart Shack Murray has seen numerous floods in his 72 years, but none rival this one.
Even though my house, it's not flooded, it's about, that's, of the 880 acres, I've got 3 acres, I think, out, or if that. In 74, 75, it got pretty high, and that time before that, when I couldn't get the milk tankers in.
In those years, to build levees, recalls Shack Murray, residents on this floodplain relied mostly on sandbags and shovels. Earth-moving machinery is playing a crucial role here, but the maze of channels and embankments built in more recent years made it impossible to predict where the floodwaters might flow.
We've gone to a higher level of development, try to make our farms more efficient, laser grading. All those have been very beneficial things, but what they do in some other way, they make water run faster off our properties when we have rain events and they join up with other water that comes through our system.
And the rain that caused these floods was a remarkable event. In some places, almost 200 millimetres fell in little more than a day, onto ground already sodden by good spring rains and an earlier flood.
If you talk about the rain that we've had in January, particularly that first 10 days of January, the early estimates of loss of production, loss of value of what production is there, and the sheer physical damage from the floods, the department's estimating somewhere between $1.5 and $2 billion.
At its peak, a wall of water from 3 major river systems, the Loddon, Avoca and Wimmera, all further swollen by a host of smaller creeks, formed a 40-kilometre front resembling an inland sea. It cuts swathes through the cropping country, wrecking pastures and thousands of tonnes of fodder. 13,000 head of livestock, mostly sheep, have perished. Horticulture has also been hit hard.
As an example, the grape industry is talking something like 40% reduction in wine grape yields this year because of the disease that's got into the grapes. People just physically have not been able to keep up their control programs because it has rained so much and been so wet. So it goes right across the spectrum.
Apiarist Colin Barton had most of his hives on land bordering the Loddon River.
To get here, there's a creek across in the background of those trees over the back there, and I had to wade in water, which they say you shouldn't do, but there was no option. I couldn't get to them, and I was in water up to my chest, and it was a raging torrent. I was really had to have my leg jammed down to get through, and I got here and I walked from about 1 kilometre through water, and it was running through here around about 1 foot deep. And it come right down through the chicken farm there, and a metre of water went through the chicken farm.
About 300,000 birds were lost on this farm, and 3/4 of the bees in these hives were drowned.
Yeah, all I could do was pull the lids back and let the bees out the top and hope that the queen survived.
But few have, so to save these hives, Colin Barton will have to buy and install new queen bees. He'll need 400 at $65 a piece, and these bees will not produce honey for many months.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what's happened. That hive is virtually completely ruined. That's only had a new queen put in it this year. There's the queen cage where the new queen was in, but that hive's completely ruined. The only way that could possibly survive would be with a package and a new queen.